Hi everyone, welcome back to TheJaxLife. Well, what a day. Today, September 22nd, 2011. I've been on a quest to reach social media nirvana, and Facebook has sent me into an existential crisis. Back a couple months ago, I'd been really wanting to get an invite to get into Google Plus, and I finally got one. But right before I got it, I mentioned in one of my vlogs here on the channel that I'll keep you posted on my quest for social media, social networking nirvana, and here I am. And it's rough. It's been a rough week if you really on Facebook. I'm kind of glad now that I got the Google Plus invite, and I do have an alternative. You know, I guess imagine a world where you could only watch NBC. Thank goodness that there are all the cable channels, or even back in the day, you had at least 4 or 5 more channels to choose from before cable and before all the different choices became available. Um, I rode the first change fine this week, though I was going to talk a little bit today about some of the concerns that I had, but I rode that through that fine. But this Space Mountain ride that is being a Facebook participant is getting rather wild, and I just took a very sharp turn off into a wild direction with this announcement of the concept of your profile being totally revamped into a timeline type thing. I don't know. I'm philosophical. I am nostalgic, but I don't know. I feel a lot of the design element that was always good about Facebook will begin to fade away. And, I don't like the idea necessarily of my life being packaged, unless I do the packaging. And I've begun to see some of the changes. I'd like to talk a little bit about social media and changes for just a couple minutes, and then move on to talking about where I've been and where I'm going in the social media world. Uh, Back a couple months ago, I saw a fascinating documentary that I'd seen as a kid many years ago. It was done by, of all people, the late, great Orson Welles, the guy who did the War of the Worlds broadcast, the guy that was on, I believe he was in Citizen Kane, really big, literally big actor. And he did a documentary about Future Shock. Alvin Toffler had a book called Future Shock, and talked, a lot about people and how they have to adapt to changes. And boy, if you're a Facebook participant, you are really getting a dose of it this week. Now they haven't unveiled this new change, but yet they had the other change, the one where your news stories get all prioritized, and that's interesting. And I'll go ahead and dip right into talking a little bit about that. Um, you know, your role in um, social media seems to sometimes take on a life of its own. And I've noticed this for about a year. Facebook has been creeping up on all sorts of different websites. So it's not unusual for me to see different things, and some things that don't make a lot of sense. Facebook now is kind of like a sponge, and absorbing your life through the internet. So I guess it makes sense to do a life kind of timeline, but which is what is being unveiled today. Um, but I look at it and I think to myself, you have all of these different, pieces of what you're trying to accomplish. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to read up on news, read up on what my family and friends are doing, and maybe every once in a while communicate, out to the world, I guess. And, there are more ways, like through YouTube, that I actually communicate out directly to the world because it's very direct. I can talk about what I want to, and I do have some level of, video control. For example, Mark Zuckerberg probably will not take this video, couldn't right now, of course, not yet. I couldn't take this video and chop it up into a million pieces and scatter it out and package it and prioritize it or deprioritize it as he sees fit for marketing or communications reasons. Uh, YouTube allows a level of control. Okay, so you're a creative person. Now, I have a very boring job. Um, I won't go into it because what I handle is somewhat sensitive and, of course, proprietary and confidential. But I can assure you that what I do is incredibly boring and could be done by a robot if just the company would spring for one. A lot of what I do. So what do I do when I get home and I get into social media? I want the power of creativity, and that's being zapped out. Zapped out. Um, Except, I mean, in that area. Now, of course, YouTube, here I am, allows me some creative control. Twitter allows me a level of creative control and participation. Communications, fascinating on Twitter. Google Plus, still waiting, still waiting. Google Plus is very well positioned right now. Very well positioned. I think that all these changes, the average person can only handle so much change. I mean, in a couple days. Uh, I'm somewhat amazed at, and I understand this all about competition and about making sure that the Facebook empire survives, doesn't have any competition, you know, and stays competitive. And I would say protect the stockholders, shareholders, but they haven't yet gone public. But I'm sure this has a lot to do with them going public at the end of next year and being well positioned for that. But as Netflix realized not that long ago, and other companies have realized, if you anger your population or you create levels of change that they're at a very high level that haven't maybe been properly communicated, properly transitioned, properly phased in, people will walk. Now, some people wouldn't walk off a Netflix subscription. I don't use Netflix, but I'm using that as an example. Some people wouldn't walk off a Netflix subscription because they're into movies. Well, it's like I told my friend the other day. I said, I could walk away from Facebook. It would be not very fun, but I could do it. Let's say Facebook got wiped out tomorrow. I have family and friends, but I never really are that in depth. I mean, my close family is no longer with me. Uh, they've gone off to the Facebook in the sky where their status updates twirl above in the heavens. Just kidding. They were before the social media revolution. But I've got some family on there, but it would be understandable. I have some friends, but it would be understandable. I could walk away and I could go to Google Plus. I can't stop saying Google Plus is very well positioned for this. If I could see it in one way, is that Facebook reacted very sharply and very quickly, but Google Plus has the element of time to tweak and to do and to react and to see some of the mistakes, maybe see some of the successes, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting the next 6 months or so, especially for Google. And I would like to see them react somewhat and create an alternative. Like I said, people want some levels of control. You can't wake up one day and have something that you've worked on for years just change. Picasso, for example. My profile isn't Picasso, but you just can't go into Picasso's studio and just start messing around with the paint and think that Picasso is not going to say anything or react. And especially when these people are not paying customers. I'm not a paying customer. What am I? I'm ad revenue. How are you going to target me? Well, if I jump off the ship, you can follow me somewhere else. And I'm not one of these people. For me, I never took it incredibly seriously. But and I'll see where this goes. But if I don't like the direction it's taking, or if there's some sort of statement about myself that's being made that I'm not comfortable with, if I start to lose some levels of control, the algorithm already had me having some question about that. The algorithm, used for prioritizing status updates I had some question on. Uh, I saw people that maybe I wasn't very close with more towards the top of my feed, and I'm trying to figure that one out, whatever. Uh, you know, but there's something that's deeper, and it's the algorithm. Um, think about this, okay? With creating a timeline, you can follow decisions and made, places visited. You can develop a more sophisticated profile, and this has been happening. I'm not telling you anything new. Check out my video back a couple months back called, actually it was back in May, and it's called What's in Your Algorithm. It's on my channel, TheJaxLife. Actually, it's on my channel, The Left Turn, which if you go into the TheJaxLife channel and click on the left turn on the right-hand side, you can go right to it and just pull up for May. But so there's, there's this algorithm that's in the background. Things are becoming more sophisticated. As I mentioned, Facebook's kind of a sponge. There's information that's flowing through all these different websites, a partnership with Yahoo and all this stuff. So where do we go from here? Well, I joke with my friend, the day I registered on the first website back in for me, maybe it was 1995, 1996, I take the long-term view. I've been participating on the internet since August 1995 when I got my Florida State University email account and began emailing. And, back in those days, things were very one-dimensional. You could go to websites and they were very flat. There weren't that many links. I mean, the hyperlink, people would go crazy with the hyperlinks. Every word was a hyperlink. Talking to you today about, World War II, and the would be hyperlinked, about would be hyperlinked, World War II would be hyperlinked, everything would be hyperlinked. And so you're constantly going in and out, and you're going, oh, dead link, or oh, what's going on here, or this doesn't make any sense. So everything was kind of coded together, kind of very haphazard. And things got more and more sophisticated. Media came along. Now Facebook's also going to be trying to integrate music, which they should have done years ago, because now I'm kind of entrenched with my other music service, and I don't know if I'm going to jump it for a no-name service. So there. I guess I need to boil this down because this video can't go on forever. For me, my long journey on the internet from 1995 to forward has changed. And it's gone off in a direction I'm not really keen on, kind of like the way the politics and the economy of this country are going. You reach a point where, there's this tremendous capability. And then the commercial realm comes in. And you can see it whether it's in social media or PC gaming or your local community or just your general life. And the commercial realm becomes more and more powerful. Eisenhower warned about the military-industrial complex, but down the road, it may be wise, generally, for those of you who participate in the social media. And, if you think you're not participating, if you think you're just on the internet and your moves aren't being tracked and you're not being sold product, and you say, I don't use Facebook, and you say that and you're posting on a website, saying, I don't use Facebook. Facebook's I live a private life. The day that you registered on the first website, you sold your soul, and that's okay because we're all living in hell with today's stock market developments. But the level of control, the level of creativity, gets watered down. And that, I guess maybe if I could go back and look at MySpace was very unique. There were some good things about MySpace. They couldn't keep up technologically. Just as I think Yahoo right now can't seem to keep up technologically with what I want out of email and information. Things are changing. The dominoes are falling right now. And there are power brokers and there are people that are architects of this grand new landscape. But there is such thing as backlash, and there you go. I've finally pulled Facebook into the politics and the economy. In a year, let's look back, and provided YouTube's still around and I'm still doing this, which I figure I still would, let's look back in a year at where Facebook is, where Google Plus is, and Twitter's amazing. Now there's a utility. Mark Zuckerberg, when he first started Facebook, said there's a utility. Well, folks, I can't walk away from AT&T. I have to have my cell phone. With the media blackout related to the Wall Street protests and a lot of the things that have been going on, I can't walk away from Twitter. I'm very interested in Google Plus. I'll be checking them out. But, if you push it too far, Mark, I'll walk away from Facebook. And you're looking at a man who has been through a lot of changes and handled Future Shock pretty well. But I just think this is the 1 week you may have gone too far. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. See you later.